This is what Russia is claiming, according to Putin. The nuclear triad is our strong point, he says. I'll put Sarmat and Lars intercontinental ballistic missiles into operational force onto the final clash, he says. Syugu says 500 NATO satellites are working for Kiev. 27 countries spent $1 trillion on arms delivered to Kiev. Zelensky landed abnormally at the Andrews military base in the US, Medvedev in China, with a secret message from Putin on to the final clash. Vesti FM radio in Moscow, Sergei Mardan writes on his Telegram channel, Zelensky is in Washington, Medvedev with a personal message to Putin from Putin in Beijing in China. It appears that the prelude to attempts at negotiating is coming to an end and that war is about to be formally declared. So what's going on? This is going to be a tremendous change, it looks like. Something is brewing. The Nord Stream pipeline explosions, the oil embargo, the anti-missile defense systems, the expanded European training network for Ukrainian soldiers. In Russia, partial mobilization as a test of systems readiness for a major war, transfer of complex military industrial enterprises to military production mode. The tension reached its peak, and in fact, everything was already clear when the liberated territories were included in Russia. Statements by Russian President Vladimir Putin at an expanded meeting of the Russian Defense Ministry said, "We know our strengths." He said, "We know our strengths, the nuclear triad, the aerospace forces, some parts of the Navy. We know that we have these and everything is in good condition," said the head of the Russian state. The Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missiles and Admiral Gorchakov frigate, equipped with brand new Zircon hypersonic missiles, will soon be put into operational service, he said, characteristically during the meeting. Soon the Sarmat ICBMs will be put on alert for the first time, he said, during a major meeting held at the Ministry of Defense. Let me add that the armed forces are always supplied with Lars thermonuclear ICBM missiles, he said, and Russia will maintain and improve the combat readiness of its nuclear triad. This is a main guarantee of maintaining our sovereignty and territorial integrity, strategic parity, and the general balance of power in the world, Putin said. The percentage of nuclear weapons in the nuclear triad reached 91%. In general, he emphasized, what is happening in Ukraine is a tragedy, but it's not the result of Russian policy, but that practiced by third countries. The Ukrainian people always remain a brotherly people for Russia. The goal of Russia's strategic opponents is to break up our country, which they consider too big. Russia has always wanted to be part of the so-called civilized world, but was not welcome there. The Russian president said that he himself tried to bring Russia and the West closer, but the latter had other goals. Russia's geopolitical rivals managed to brainwash the post-Soviet space, including Ukraine, he says. Russia will not repeat the mistakes of the past, he says, when the economy was destroyed in the interest of defense. The Russian authorities are not going to militarize the country and its economy. There's no doubt that all goals in the military sector will be achieved, he says. We expect constructive, meaningful negotiations with a visible end result and a clear deadline which guarantees equal security for all. We will protect and strengthen the security of our fellow citizens, including the new territories of the Russian Federation, said Vladimir Putin, alluding to the annexed Ukrainian territories when he laid out his military goal for 2023 in front of Russian senior officials. He said, today we must do everything to improve our armed forces as the military capabilities of all NATO countries are being used today against Russia, he stressed. NATO staff officers, gunners and other specialists are the front lines in Ukraine, with more than 500 NATO satellites working for Kiev, Syugu said. 27 countries have already spent $97 billion on arms deliveries to Ukraine, Syugu said, while he clarified that in 2014 there was Western funding for a coup in Kiev. He announced an increase in the number of Russian army to 1.5 million soldiers, including 670,000 contractors. More than 15,000 soldiers participated in the extended meeting of the Russian Defense Ministry, mainly via video conference. Zelensky is in the US and Medvedev in China to meet with Xi Jinping, President of China, and the rope is stretching. Joint Russian-Belarus military exercise on the Belarusian territory. Belarus, we know, has a northern border with Ukraine. Continued deployment of Russian troops in Belarus. All possibly open. Putin, of course, did not open his papers anymore to show what he's going to be doing. Ukrainians push to acquire Patriot missiles from the US. The United States will provide $1.85 billion in additional military aid to Ukraine, including the Patriot system, said U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. 80% of Kiev is now without electricity, said Ukrainian Foreign Minister Oleksiy Kuleba. And this is by Dipin News. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.